Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast from instantmediations.com. It's where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Hi, I'm Mac Pierre, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator.
And I am Natalia Olowska Pierre, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator. And today we have with us
Tye Bourdony, full-time mediator and primary mediation trainer. And since everyone said arbitrator, I am also an arbitrator, so I'm also an arbitrator with the Mediation Center of Central Florida. And I also mediate and train for CPLS PA, as well as the Mediation Training Center in Florida.
Thanks, Tye. So we're doing a series with Tye that's focusing on a lot of different topics, but one of the themes that we'll be hitting on is going to be pro se's and mediation for non-lawyers. That's on the chyron on the screen. And so we just wanted to have a little chat, a little talk about our experiences when it comes to working with people without lawyers and why people should bring a lawyer to mediation or why they should not bring a lawyer to mediation and how mediation works when you don't have an attorney, because lots of people do their own thing. They don't have attorneys. So just wanted to kind of go around robin and get everybody's statement on their opinions on dealing with pro se's and how it works in your jurisdiction.
And before it goes to Tye, I just wanted to say one thing. When you are a pro se, you usually don't know that until you go and see someone who explains that to you. Yeah. Pro se means basically that you do not have a lawyer, as Mac has just said. And this is the sort of slang that lawyers, judges, mediators as well, use to describe people who will not benefit from legal aid in the process of, for example, like this one, mediation. However, this does not mean that their position is any less or any better in the mediation. It's just another case of mediation where you can equally benefit from all that mediation brings to people who go for it and attend a mediation session, either in person or online.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think the truth of the matter is that, look, for instance, so I was the staff mediator at my local courthouse when I got out of law school. And primarily I did family mediations, right? But every week we'd have 2 days of county or small claims mediations. Mm-hmm. And those were by and large all people without attorneys. Sometimes they'd have attorneys. Typically they did not. But by the same token, even family cases. Now, I left in 2017, but each year, right, roughly 23,000 cases, something like that, were filed, right, in family. The majority of those, were pro se, without lawyers. So I think the point is lots of people who have issues and who have legal issues do it without the benefit of an attorney for whatever reason, right? Now, attorneys can be expensive, but they go into this and they don't have attorneys with them, right? And so the question is, how best do they navigate when they don't have an attorney and they're in the legal process, right? Do you go to court and do you file and then so if you filed a small claims court case or a family case in Florida, specifically in the Ninth Circuit, right? So then that case kind of goes through the, administrative clerk criteria before it will ultimately, months later, wind up in front of me or some other mediator in the department. And so small claims, for instance, right? The majority of those are like debt collection cases, landlord-tenant, neighbor issues. It could be any one of a number of things, but for the most part, it was unrepresented folks who were being collected on, right? I mean, a large majority. And so I used to love mediating in small claims because that's where I felt most like a superhero. That's where I felt like I could really help folks. And it wasn't because I advocated for them, and it wasn't because like I in any way treated them, because I'm a mediator, I am a neutral, I am the big bad debt collector's neutral, just as I am the pro se, without an attorney's neutral. But how you handle it, one, the very first thing, right? Because they're all so nervous. That's the bad part about being unrepresented, is it all falls on the unrepresented party, right? They have to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, what not to say, what to file, what not to file, and then once they start talking, like, they're not trained like the rest of us to know how to present those issues and in what order, right? And what's more important than what isn't, and what should you just leave out entirely. And so it's not easy to navigate. And when they would come to court, no one likes to go to court. That's the other thing. Like, so you're uncomfortable, you're nervous. I can't tell you how many times people thought, oh my gosh, am I going in front of the judge? Am I going to get arrested? Like, in the US, there's no more debtor's prison. You don't get arrested, but people are worried, so worried. And so it's always been important to me to try and be a resource, for folks who, one reason or another, have some legal issues, and how can they take care of it on their own. If you can, when you're able to, you can resolve it much faster, and you can resolve it much more amicably, and you can resolve it much more affordably if you know how to do it. That's the hard part, right? Is how do they get the information they need in order to be able to take care of this issue? And how do they know which issues they should have a lawyer for? Because there are some issues you definitely want to have a lawyer for, and which issues they can try and handle it themselves. And then there's a whole bunch of programs. There's a whole bunch of resources that are available to folks that they don't even know about, apart from not even knowing about mediation, right? Sometimes the first time people even hear about mediation is because they filed something or they're getting sued, and then they're like, oh, you have to go to mediation. What's mediation? So I guess the first thing is, letting them know that you can take care of some of these issues in mediation. What are some of those resources? Which kind of cases are good for it? And how do you go about doing it? And where and when does an attorney? Because there are some instances when you kind of, at the very least, shouldn't you get legal advice? And or do you bring a lawyer just to mediation, or do you talk to a lawyer, go to mediation, and then get them if it doesn't work? So so each case is just different in and of itself. The question is, how do we get folks to kind of understand the landscape, and how best can they move forward in a way that is not detrimental to them, right? Because sometimes by going at your own, you do worse than if you actually got an attorney. So there's no one size fits all. There's no one general answer. It's kind of sometimes case by case, but there are some general things that folks can need to understand, need to know, need to be aware of, and then move forward accordingly. Boy, I said a mouthful. I know
Yeah.
I was all over the place with that. How do we start narrowing it down?
Yeah, I think the issue is education, right? Because there's so much they don't know. And so one of the things we were discussing, off air, was how we need to have sections on our website that's dedicated just to pro se people,
Yeah,
so that if they don't have an attorney, they can go to a safe place where they can learn about this, where the attention is focused on them, even though they normally, folks who have attorneys, have somebody else to worry about all that knowledge. But one of the things that we focused on when we were developing the Instant Mediations app was trying to make it as simple as possible for pro se people to use, so that there's little tips and ideas in there to help the person segue from, well, I got a problem, to, okay, who can I go and how can they help me through this process called alternative dispute resolution? Because we say all the time, most pro se people don't really know what we do, and so we have to constantly educate them and make sure that they understand, look, there's other options out there other than having to go and put down a
yeah,
ton of money for an attorney. Not that that's not the case. sometimes, and not
Right.
that's not the best answer, because sometimes that is the best answer in some
Sometimes.
situations, but people need to know their options.
And what
Okay.
I do think is that sometimes the mediator in mediation can be like a leader for those who don't have lawyers. Of course, not giving them legal advice, because this is prohibited, because even mediators who are lawyers are not in mediation to give legal advice. This is strictly prohibited. They are there to be impartial and lead the parties through the mediation process, helping them reach an agreement. But the agreement is vested with the parties. This is not the mediator who does the agreement for the parties. The mediator is there to maybe have creative ideas, to also and primarily explain what this entire process is about, to make the parties feel safe when they try to resolve their problems themselves. Because again, this is one of the best benefits of mediation. It is you who deals with your own case, not lawyers, not judges. It's you and your problem, and you speak about it, which also sometimes brings relief, because it's important to talk. The mediator makes you safe when you tell your message, when you say if something wrong was done to you, what your wishes for the future are. Because another miracle of mediation is that you close the past and move forward, whether it is a family case, a criminal case. So mediator is there to help you understand your position in terms of the dispute you are in, not on legal grounds, but on your just life situation, and help you move forward, help you propose things that will be beneficial for you, help you mitigate your proposal so that there can be an agreement, help you speak, make you being heard. And this is something that sometimes is far more important with the court, where your voice can happen, will not be heard at all, or will be simply ignored. So mediation is a great chance for everybody, especially for those who do not have lawyers.
Yeah. Can we share some past examples or scenarios? And of course, we don't say any names on this show.
Right.
I recall one issue that kept arising when I've had pro se's come to me for mediation is, one of the parties might leave the mediation, everything's just done, they signed the paperwork, we filed with the court, and now they have a MSA, a mediated settlement agreement. However, they then call and they call and they call, and sometimes they're calling because they have issues or questions or whatever else. That's not how it works. Okay, so one of the, I guess, rules of dealing with pro se people or dealing with parties who don't have attorneys is the mediator is not your lawyer, so that you have to understand the relationship that exists between yourself, the opposition, and the mediator who's a neutral. Usually once the case is wrapped up at the mediation, that's kind of it. I mean, it's basically done. And if there is a need for there to be a return back to the mediator, usually it's going to be done by both parties. They're both going to come because the mediator has to remain on equal footing. And so there shouldn't be that then, one party constantly calling the mediator just to ask questions. That's one rule I would definitely like to remind people about, because I know I've had that happen to me a couple of times, and it's to be avoided.
But before and during, please talk to us. Talk, 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 talk. It's after. And so when mediation's over, before we leave, I make a little joke about it. But I'll say something like, "Now you did so well today. I hope I never see you all again." And then everyone chuckles, right? Because you never have to use a mediator. You never have to come to court again. But if and this was pre-pandemic when I was, it was local, right?
Yeah.
But if I ever see you at the local supermarket or at the pharmacy, because it happens, I'd bump into people in my community once in a while. We can talk about anything, but we can't talk about the case, right? Because the mediator is a neutral and I'm everybody's neutral. And so I always liked to pre-frame that occurrence happening. And by the same token, then I would also say, and so, you shouldn't be calling me to find out what's going on. You can call the courthouse, you can call the clerk, you could talk to an attorney, but I'm everybody's neutral, and I'm really not involved afterwards, right? And so the best thing I found was trying to let them know that before we left, but still I'd bump into them, and first thing it's just human nature, I think, they need to find out what's going on. And so you would let's talk a little bit before I jump in and say, oh, remember, I can't really, I hate when attorneys would say something like, I can't talk to you because I'm on the other, and it just sounded so stuffy. So I just like to kind of pre-frame it so I don't come off sounding like, this highfalutin, jerk, because I can't talk to you about the issue, So that helped, but they still are going to talk. Or you come to an agreement and the other person doesn't pay. Who are they going to call? They're going to call you, And so it's probably a good idea for mediators to have like a list. Here, you can call these people. These are the people you should follow up with, kind of thing. But it's going to happen. It is what it is in that regard.
Natalia, how
But
do you?
the thing with what we are talking about is also one of the guarantees of why mediation can be so successful. This is confidentiality. We meet somewhere, but we meet in another role than on the street. I am no longer the mediator. You are no longer my party to the mediation. I cannot be a witness on the case. You have full certainty that whatever was said in mediation, even if you didn't reach an agreement, just remains where it was. It cannot be recorded. It cannot be replayed. It cannot be transferred either to the court or to even members of the family.
Right.
So in this sense, mediation is a place where you also leave everything that you came with. And if your case is resolved, you just leave it there and take a new life with you in the form of the mediation agreement. And when it comes to pro se, of course, you come to mediation and you have your problems. You're afraid of meeting these other parties oftentimes. This happens so incredibly often that the parties are just afraid to speak to each other. And again, mediation has so much to offer. You can be in separate rooms, even online. You can be guaranteed that you'll be given a similar time to talk, to present your arguments, whereas in real life, the other party would probably normally wouldn't allow you to speak or wouldn't even listen what you have to say. So many times I really had people thanking me so much that they were able to hear the other party, that were able to understand what the issue was. Sometimes people just need to have a session where they can really, especially women, and I am allowed to say that because I am
You're
one.
allowed to say that.
Yes, and they need to go through what was in the past, like again. And men sometimes don't understand it, but later on they tend to appreciate it. Okay, at least we have the situation cleared out. Of course, this thing that happened 5 years ago, 7 years ago, for me as a man, don't matter anymore. But at least I know what hurt. At least we can move forward. So don't be afraid. Come to your mediator, share those things, and be certain that you'll be protected, that you'll be safe.
Thank you. Tye, we got like 1.5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the services that exist in Florida, specifically targeted at pro ses?
Yeah. So anybody, right, can ask a mediator to help them in a non-criminal, case, contract, family issues, right, and insurance issues and what have you. The problem is folks don't really, know about it. So if we're talking family issues, when you file your case, they will automatically send you to a mediator, which I was the staff mediator, if there are issues with respect to some kind of property and or children, right? You're going to have to go to a mediator. And small claims, right? Whatever that issue is, they will automatically send you to a day of mediation before you go in front of the court, right? In the mediation, it's your day. If you don't, you go in front of the judge decides. Now, mediation is also good for judicial economy, right? More than half of the cases, maybe something like 75% of our cases, we would settle them. So one, mediation is a great place to get your issues settled. But secondly, how do you know about mediation, right? So this is what this is part about. You can mediate before a case goes to court. Family cases and contract cases, landlord-tenant cases, homeowners association, foreclosure cases. There's a lot more to be said about those kinds of issues. But there are also some programs in Florida, right, that are set up in Florida. I'm sure every state, if we're talking within the United States, Natalia would know better with respect to either the European Union and definitely where she practices in Poland. But I'm sure Texas, the jurisdiction, Mac, that you're in, just like Florida, is going to have some kind of similar programs. In Florida, for instance, the Florida Department of Financial Services, they have programs for, and the one that's used the most is for insurance claims, denied insurance claims. Before you file, you can ask the Department of Financial Services for a mediation. It's free to the homeowner, right? So it can be denied insurance claims. I think they also have like if you issues with vehicles, like if you purchased a vehicle. I think they also have there's a couple of programs, but the only one that is used apparently a lot is this one for insurance program, denied insurance claims. It's become kind of a standard, right? But the point is, it's a great place for people who have insurance claims with or without attorneys, and typically it's with like public adjusters, right? To go and try and come to agreement with the insurance company. That's free for individuals, right? Then there's also the Department of Agriculture, and I mediate for both of these programs. This is for producers, agricultural producers. Anything having to do with an agricultural producer's life that is somehow going to be, it could be debt, it could be issues of repayment to the USDA, it can be labor, it can be tenants, right? Anything having to do with agriculture. By the same token, there are programs for, let's say you're having some kind of issue at school. You can get a mediation through the Department of, and it's either local and or through the Department of Education in Florida, right? You can get a mediation for that. There's employment, mediations, right? That people can get access to. There was also so small claims, like I said before, right? If you're getting sued, they will automatically send you. So the question is, do parties need, and there's others, by the way, that is not the only one. There are other programs, and I think in a future session, we'll have a list of that we can think of in Florida, maybe in Texas as well. But the point is, all people have to do is look. What issue do you have? And look and see if there's an issue, if there's some kind of program that can help, and try mediation first. But people should also, it's never a bad idea to speak to an attorney and to get a consultation before you go to mediation, right? And your local bar association can always help you get access to a consultation. Now, there's so much more to say, and there's so little time. And each time we do this, we'll pick up on one of those issues. But the most important thing is there is help for you. If you don't have an attorney and you think you need help, look for a mediator, right? Google it. Google is a great thing, and you can find mediators, and we're going to make sure that we get these resources out to you.
So thanks so much, Tye Bourdony. And for those of you who are watching and listening, if you learned something good today, so make sure that you follow us. Check out instantmediations.com. And until next time, come back for another topic where we'll talk about lawyers and mediators. All right, signing out.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.